Well, this is what we've been waiting for. We have a price prediction here for Kaspa driven by AI. So we've really gotten a whole bunch of quantitative data in here that we had the AI take a look at and then give us a decent kind of price prediction. This is going to be for end of Q4 2025, so basically end of the year, anywhere to the end or middle of Q1 of 2026. So think anywhere between the next 3 to 6 months, this is where we could see Kaspa Price going. So let's go on ahead and we'll dive right on in to check out all the things that we've got. So here we can see we have a kind of a snapshot of like what this would look like. You can see it's taken into account the price, the market cap, the supply, the emission schedule, various like different things like upgrades, listings, roadmaps, tech positioning, all of this type of stuff. So it's really done a pretty deep and intensive search here to figure out where we really could be towards the end of the year or maybe even the beginning of next year for some Kaspa price predictions. We have a couple of different kind of ranges here, as we generally do on the channel. We've got more of a bearish price prediction. We've got more of about like a maybe base case prediction, a bull case, and then like a everything went right, this is a super bull case type of prediction. So this is what we've got today. Again, brought to you by ChatGPT, helping us out here and going through a lot of this data. So here we can see scenarios for late 2025/early 2026. The implied price essentially uses the December 2025 supply. If you want to be using the Q1 2026 supply, the price will be about 1% lower. So again, just something to note here, but not, in my opinion, a major difference here. So we can see here, we have the first one, which is bearish, which is risk off and no major catalysts. The assumption here assumes that that Bitcoin and majors consolidate or soften into year-end and liquidity stays tight. So this would include things like the rate cuts getting canceled, potentially inflation staying high, things like that. That would realistically kind of soften crypto and even probably cause some sell-offs towards the end of the year. Also, in addition to that, we'd see no top-tier spot listings. Again, to be clear, spot listings, because we do have a couple futures listings, I believe, on Coinbase. And then also the app layer traction remains early, meaning we're not really seeing much kind of like we're seeing right now. Minor issuance also continues, but demand does not expand. So there is going to be kind of that implied or inherent sell pressure onto the market. Targeted market cap here would be about 1.6 to 2.4 billion. This would be between 6 and 9 cents at that point in time. So roughly where we are right now, potentially a little bit lower on the downside, potentially a little bit higher on the upside. Basically, the range is below or around today's market cap, with about 4% annualized issuance into the year and plausible if flows rotate into larger caps. Base case is going to be steady risk on plus organic progress. Nothing super crazy, but still a little bit of organic progress and just the signs of the ecosystem developing. Here we can see that crypto would stay constructive. KAS benefits from a generally strong proof of work narrative. Post crescendo UX and infra keep improving. Early smart contract plumbing / payloads support more integrations. Again, this is stuff that should be coming right down the pipeline here very, very soon. And then also no blockbuster listing yet, but liquidity does improve across existing venues. So again, essentially, Kaspa remains more of a DEX purchase. At least, obviously it is listed on some centralized exchanges, but the big ones are not going to be involved quite yet. This would get us to a market cap between 3 to 4.5 billion, giving us a price of about 11 to 17 cents. So again, still a decent little grind up, and I think maybe commensurate with what we've seen from kind of just early improvements, things getting better, but still just nothing crazy happening quite yet. And then here you can see, this retests part of Kaspa's prior momentum without requiring kind of new paradigm catalysts. Think about, major changes happening in terms of adoption, blockbuster listings, things like that. Note Kaspa's last cycle all-time high was 21 cents back in 2024, which with then lower supply equated to roughly mid-single digit billions in market cap. This range sits below that historic spike. Now, the next option here would be the bullish option, which is one big catalyst plus some healthy tape in terms of healthy trading action and things like that. Here we could see one of a spot listing either between a major US exchange or meaningful traction for a smart contract layer on Kaspa. Devs start shipping real apps / tools that use payloads and covenants. Broader market strong, alt rotation supports mid caps daily volumes expand. So basically, like, we need to see everything becoming more and more risk on. We have the stock market continually pushing new highs, Bitcoin's pushing new highs. We've maybe got, like a VC type of boom because, multiples are going up, people are making a lot of money, a lot of that type of stuff. And then also the minor sell pressure remains manageable. At 20 cents, new issuance is going to be about almost $20 million a month versus current market-wide volumes, which is absorbable in a risk-on type of play here. And then here, that would put us at a target market cap between 5 and 8 billion, which would be an implied price between 19 and 30 cents. This would essentially bring us somewhere between Monero, which is about 5.3, and Litecoin, which is close to 8, both proof of work networks with durable brands and liquidity. It is ambitious, of course, but I think we could see that if we particularly start to see devs really starting to ship and usage going up within the Kaspa ecosystem. I think that's really, really important to understand here. And then 4, we have maximum bullish, right? Everything is going right. We have both major spot listings arriving, as well as, essentially allowing and unlocking US retail flows, and the app layer seeks breakout traction, payments, micropayments, L2s, contracts, all this type of stuff. This really starts to come on. The transactions per second, we really start to see loading up. The 10 blocks per second aren't mostly empty blocks, but they're just, they're getting filled up with stuff happening, things like that. And then also narrative cements Kaspa as the high throughput proof of work settlement layer, liquidity and derivatives deepen. So again, this is kind of really where we start to get to that narrative where Kaspa becomes kind of like the replacement for Bitcoin to some degree. Of course, we're still miles away from that. And even at this point in time, I do think we would indeed be miles away from that. But I think more people would genuinely start to believe it. And this would get us to a market cap of between 10 and $15 billion, potentially a stretch to 20 billion. This would imply the price between 37 and 56 cents, and then again potentially stretching to 75 cents if we could see that happen. Now, again, I do think there is a world. This is me. This is not ChatGPT. This is me diving into my land of delusion. But there is a world, I do think, in which we could see this stretch even further, maybe even hitting a $50-75 billion market cap. But that is going to be completely predicated on this app layer really, really building out and seeing some major improvements. So, I mean, this is like, we would really we'd have to be pushing 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 consistent transactions per second, which is almost mirroring Solana at that point in time. So I do think we would really need to see some major improvements there. But then I also do think as price went up, that would of course kind of draw more people to mining as well, and then the hash rate would go up. We could see a lot of kind of generally positive things happening if we went in that direction as well. But essentially, why not higher? Why could it not go beyond? ChatGPT does answer this. In late stages of a cycle, yes, but pushing past 15 to 20 billion would place Kaspa between Litecoin and Doge territory on today's numbers. That requires truly explosive adoption plus listings. Keep in mind that Kaspa already has a large float, 93% mined, which dampens the squeeze dynamics versus small float tokens, which is true. This is, of course, the case where when you have a large float, it doesn't make it as explosive on the upside, but it also doesn't make it dilute as much. So when it goes up, the down isn't usually as bad. So again, kind of the reasoning here that ChatGPT is going for is essentially you need to see something in between, kind of Litecoin and Doge. If you start pushing up towards that 30, 40, 50, 60 trillion or 60 billion, that range, then you really do start to competing towards Doge of taking over being the largest proof of work chain that is not named Bitcoin. So there is kind of something there is something there. So just think about that. Also, you can see how the mechanics drive these ranges. The supply math is favorable but not extreme. The throughput is already there. We just need people to use it, right? I mean, and that's kind of the thing that is kind of the big question at this point. Is it does appear that Kaspa can handle the throughput, they can handle the volume. You just need people to actually do something with that throughput and volume, which we haven't really seen quite yet. Listing and apps really truly are the swing factors. This is, of course, kind of what we've been talking about on the channel for a very long time. We have to see adoption, and then also, getting some listings on Coinbase or Binance would be major moves for sure. So here we have the quick comparables, and then here we can go get a just quick lineup of those price predictions in case you want to see those again. I won't rehash them, but I did want to go over the monitoring of kind of the major things to be looking for going into December 2025 to the March 2026 range. First off, first and foremost is going to be a Coinbase or Binance listing. That is going to probably be the biggest thing that we could see in terms of kind of positive price, giving us some positive price momentum. Perps already do exist on Coinbase International for Kaspa, but no spot listings exist currently. We would also need to see smart contract plus app layer milestones shipping on and around the Kaspa network. This is something, that the app layer is essentially, or at least theoretically, should be going live tomorrow, or I guess yesterday is technically when this video will go live. So, we technically should be starting to see some of that coming along here. We haven't really been able to see any of that quite yet, but I will be very interested in watching very keenly as to what happens here. And then of course, network stability at 10 blocks per second. Right now, so far it seemed to work just fine. Maybe as the blocks start to fill up and the transactions start to get a little bit more kind of high volume and high velocity, maybe we start to see things slow down here. But I think at least at this point, we have seen 10 blocks per second hold pretty well. And then also, we do want to kind of watch the relative valuations versus Monero and Litecoin. If Monero and Litecoin really start taking off, then, potentially we could see, kind of that watermark get set a little bit higher, though I do believe that Kaspa could easily overtake both of them if we do start to see a lot of that usage. Again, everything, in case you haven't realized, everything is kind of centering around this usage here. So overall, that is what we have here for a price prediction powered by AI for Kaspa. I tend to kind of largely agree with what we're seeing here. Like I said, I do think there is a way that we could squeeze up, but we would have to see an all season of truly epic proportions for something like that to happen. But overall, I think kind of in the range that we're sitting at, I think things are looking really good. I'm going to be very interested to see what happens for Kaspa. I do think kind of, again, for like the 10th time in this video, it is going to depend on what we see out of the smart contract adoption and how much action we can bring to that Kaspa network. So I'm going to be watching that very closely. You probably should be taking a close look at that as well. Hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, of course, you know what to do. And then also I'd love to hear all of your comments. I'd love to hear, where do you think of these price predictions? Are they too low? Are they too high? What are your thoughts here? I'd be super interested to know. Just drop those in the comment section below. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.